President Trump with a message to Congress. Do something now about immigration, he says.
So will lawmakers deliver? Let's talk to Senator Rand Paul. He joins us today. Let's see, where are you today? You're in Bowling Green.
I'm in Bowling Green, Kentucky. That's my home, and I'm glad to be home.
It's great to have you as well. All right, so, there were a lot of people who were disappointed, Senator, that with the omnibus last week, that something wasn't done about DACA and ultimately immigration, because the president, as we all know, famously has 4 points, 4 pillars. Nothing got done. Doesn't seem like anything ever gets done in Washington unless it's an emergency.
Well, here's the sad thing about it. A couple weeks before the omnibus, we were told we were going to have an open debate on the floor on immigration. I actually had amendments to the bill that would have actually increased legal immigration to take pressure off of illegal immigration. None of my amendments were heard. Nobody had any votes. They had 4 pre-planned votes where they already knew the outcome and they knew all 4 would lose. And this is the sad thing about the Senate and Congress in general. They will not vote on anything that they don't count the votes in advance and know will be defeated. So they knew from the beginning nothing would happen. They devised the votes and only allow votes that will actually fail. It was not an open debate, and this is a disappointing thing about it, but it came from both parties.
Senator,
Democrats obstructed and were opposed to my amendments as well.
The president in his tweet is blaming the Obama administration for catch and release. Is the Obama administration responsible for that? And why hasn't something been done about that? The moment these illegal immigrants step foot on our soil, they're allowed to stay because our laws allow them to stay until they have a court hearing.
Yeah, that ought to be changed. The 1,100 people that are marching up through Mexico should be stopped at the border and they should be sent back. We should not allow people to come into our country and break the laws. I'm all for legal immigration. Immigrants are by and large good people and have added to our country. We're a nation of immigrants, but we should not allow people, particularly 1,100 of them, marching up to basically sort of thumb their nose and say, well, we don't care what your laws are, we're coming. They should be stopped at the border and sent home. If it requires a change of law, we should do it. But I think there is some leeway within the executive branch that they may well be able to do this if they want to.
Yeah, that's what I hear. That's what Judge Napolitano says, that the president can decide himself to end catch and release. So let Mexico take these 1,200 people rather than America. Let's see. Last time we ended up with a lot of gang members, MS-13. But let's move on to something I know you're passionate about. You spoke out almost immediately about, and that is the confirmation hearings that are supposed to take place in April of Mike Pompeo as he switches from CIA to state, and Gina Haspel as she goes from deputy to head of the CIA. What's your problem with both?
Well, I've been a big fan of President Trump. I've supported him for a long time, ever since I was defeated in the primary. But, one of the things I really liked about him was that he's been outspoken that the Iraq War was a mistake, that regime change didn't work. It led to unintended consequences, that when we removed Saddam Hussein, we actually emboldened Iran and made Iran stronger. Now Iran and Iraq are closely allied, and there's more of a problem since we removed Saddam Hussein. So it disappoints me that some of the people he's appointed around him are unapologetic enthusiasts still for the Iraq War. Between Bolton, Pompeo, all of the others, it seems like they aren't people who share the president's vision that the Iraq War was a mistake. So I really want to support the President Trump I supported during the campaign. And so I think someone needs to speak out against having too many of these neoconservatives in the administration.
So you know President Trump's vision better than he does? And you know what he wants better than he does? He wants these 2 people in place.
Touche. But, this happens in every administration. You remember even the Reagan administration, so much of us loved Reagan coming in. He was a great conservative. But sometimes he appointed people who conservatives really wish were more from the conservative school. It's the same thing here. President Trump's words on foreign policy have been different than many. He's talked about not getting involved in large land wars in the Middle East again. He's talked about coming home from Afghanistan, that the mission is completed. And so, but it's a tug of war. The president will say these things, and then members of his cabinet will say, oh, no, we need to stay in Afghanistan
there's a flip side to everything he's saying, Senator.
100,000 troops.
There's a flip side to it. If we leave Afghanistan and the Al-Qaeda comes back, we wasted our time. If we leave our presence in Syria, the Russians take over. So there's a flip side to everything. Nobody wants war.
I think there's another. Yeah, I think there's another way of looking at it, though. I think you can declare victory. We did get rid of the people who attacked us on 9/11, and we did disrupt the bases, and we did get bin Laden. So there has been a significant victory, and I was for that. But 16 years later, I think it's now nation building, and we're spending $50 billion a year in Afghanistan. I'd rather spend that money at home. We've got roads and bridges to fix here, so I would rather spend that money at home. And we can't really rule every country. We can't sort of institute a government we like in every country around the world. It's too expensive.
Right.
And really, sometimes it becomes murky who the good guys are. In Yemen, do we really want to send our sons and daughters to Yemen to fight in a war where I'm not so sure?
Well, if they're making shoe bombs in Yemen and they're blowing up their
well,
I mean,
it does sound like the president wants to get out of Syria, so stay tuned. Senator, before you go, I know you and your wife are the Kentucky chairs for Helping a Hero, and you presented the keys to a brand new house to a wounded vet. Tell us a little bit about Army Staff Sergeant Paul Brandvater.
Brandhaver, and he was, injured in Afghanistan a while ago. But the cool thing about it is the whole community turned out. We had hundreds of people. All his neighbors turned out, and it was like a welcoming parade. Lee Greenwood was there singing. I mean,
Great.
it really was something to warm the heart, but also to show that, we have an obligation to these soldiers, not just when we ask them to go to war, but when they come home. And this has probably been one of the best things I've been involved with. HelpingAHero.org has built over 100 houses. My wife's been an intimate part of raising money for this in Kentucky. And but I tell you, nothing warms the heart more than to see the community's outpouring of hope and generosity for these young soldiers that have been so severely wounded.
All right. So retired Army Staff Sergeant Paul Brandhaver has a brand new home there in Kentucky. Senator, thank you very much for joining us on this very busy Tuesday.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
And if you want to be part of the solution, go to helpingahero.org and help in other states and other